Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back, and it's Thursday, April 23rd, and it is 10:21 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. We are going to get into some more Untamed news. All right. Well, and I do have a couple people to thank. They donated via coffee, Adrian and Peekaboo. So thank you very much, guys. I do depend on Patreon subscribers and coffee donors and so forth, because there is no advertisement on this channel, and I don't think there ever will be. That is my plan anyway. So thank you guys very much. Those that throw me the odd coffee now and then, those of you that are Patreon subscribers, and those of you that may not be able to afford to, and that is fine. You are always welcome here. But you do make comments and pray and so forth, and that is support as well. So I appreciate all of you guys. Now let's get into the news. All right. So, and also I wanted to say, for those of you that have been asking about Xander and concerned, I just wanted to say that I did take him to the vet today for his follow-up after his surgery, and the vet said that he is doing amazing. He has already retained his full range of motion back. He just needs to work. His muscles are a little bit atrophied there on that side that had the surgery. So, and that just takes time. So I'm very thrilled about that. She did an amazing job, this vet, and thank you guys so much. I know a lot of you sent through coffee and different places, money to help with Xander, and that really touched me because he is a very happy, contented cat and healing very well. Maybe we'll see a little bit of him tonight if he jumps up here on the back of the chair. I hope so anyway. All right, guys, let's look at this now. I am finished chatting. Well, I'll say that, but chances are I'm not. Let's take a look at this. It says, this warning, this video will cause excessive eye rolling and frustration. Well, I feel my eyes starting to roll already just when I see that it's about AOC, because as soon as I see a video with her in it, I think, what stupid thing has she said now? Well, let's listen.
I think when we talk about this idea of reopening society, only in America does the president, when the president tweets about liberation, does he mean go back to work? When we, have this discussion about going back or reopening, I think a lot of people should just say, no, we're not going back to that. We're not going back to working 70-hour weeks just so that we could put food on the table and not even feel any sort of semblance of security in our lives. I think when we talk about this idea of reopening society.
Okay, now it's repeating.
Only in America.
And I definitely don't want to hear it a second time. This person, obviously, I don't know how she made it through university. I really don't, because she's saying, I think people should say no, we're not going back. Okay, well, you tell that to a family that has maybe, both parents working and they've got a couple kids, and how are they supposed to, how can they just say, no, I don't think we'll work? That isn't an option for 99.99% of Americans. It isn't an option to just say, I don't think I'm going to work, unless you want to live on welfare, which, I don't know. I've not been on welfare, but I don't think that it pays enough to live on. I don't see how it could. So I really don't even get her point here, except I know she's saying that it is too bad that people have to work one job, two jobs. A lot of couples, it used to be that the wife could stay at home, raise the kids, or the husband, whatever. But now that isn't an option. It isn't an option for people. And so, it's just not, and I get it. Everything is so expensive, but just not working is not the answer to that. People don't have that option. She has obviously lived and a charmed lifestyle. She's making good money now for doing nothing, basically. And, this was a part that she auditioned for. That is the truth. We've looked at that previously. So it's not anything that she feels personally invested in. She is just basically a parrot speaking whatever her overlords tell her to say. And there's no, honestly, if that was me and somebody was telling me what to say, I'd be embarrassed. I would really be embarrassed to even parrot the things that she's being told to say. And I don't think there's any amount of, I know there's no amount of money that would make me comfortable saying the things that she's saying, because they are just asinine, absolutely asinine. Obviously, I mean, this person obviously worked as a bartender, so she knows what work is. So I just don't get that. Okay, yes, it's very hard to work. And I look back when I was growing up, and my parents, they had good jobs. I mean, they both had good jobs, but they didn't have top of the line. They're very middle class, and yet we afforded to go on vacation a couple times a year and have a pool in the backyard and a cottage and things like that, which nowadays people just can't have. They can't do that anymore because housing has gone up so much. I mean, rent is out of this world. And I know up here, you can't, in my area where I am, and I'm in a very rural area, you can't get a house around here that you would live in for under $300,000. And if you do buy someplace for $300,000, it's not going to be just $300,000, because you're going to need to pour a lot of money into that to update it, because this is an old community. These are old houses, and yet they're going for top dollar. I know I looked at a little house and I thought, well, this would be great, because it was very tiny and it had been all redone and it was very modern, but it was less than 1,000 square feet, and they wanted $300,000 for it, and it wasn't even in a good part of town, but they got it. So, and now they're building great big monsters of homes because Toronto is pushing this way. And the people that are in this area that don't make a lot of money because it's agricultural can't afford the homes. So, and that's not just here. That seems to be happening everywhere. There are a few little pockets of places where it's still very affordable, but those are few and far between. And if you're in a city, it's hard to make ends meet. I get it. But just not working, yeah, that's not going to work out well for you. And you and I both know that to be true. So there you go. All right. Well, let's move on from her, because I think that I have lost a couple of IQ points just listening to her for those few minutes. So let's go on. Now, America Online just launched their new software, and guess what they've called it? MOLOCH. Yes, MOLOCH is an ancient Canaanite god, and that is, I would say, who a lot of people worship unknowingly in the States, because Moloch is the god of child sacrifice. It was a big iron god that it had arms, and the arms were mechanical. They would place the infant in the mechanical arms, and it would go into the mouth and down into the belly. Underneath they would be have fires, and it would light that belly, underneath it. But the iron and whatever it was made out of was heated, so hot that as soon as the baby would go in, of course, they would be burned to death. But the screams, somehow through that hollow, it would project out, and it would sound like the monster was making those screaming sounds, the god, so to speak. So yeah, that is the god Moloch, and they have launched their new software and called it Moloch. And also the owl is the symbolism for Moloch, as we see at Bohemian Grove and even on our money. The owl is everywhere. So yeah, so the new software, Moloch, and the logo, freaking owl. All in the open and mocking us. Oh, absolutely. It's all in the open now. And that's why people mock it so much, because it is out in the open. And that's what happens. Like, if it's kept secret, people are more apt to believe, to, listen when information trickles out. But when it's all out there in the open, people will go, oh, come on, you guys are crazy. Well, are we? I'm not thinking so. All right, and now down to this. Juanita Broaddrick, I do have a lot of respect for her. She's been through a lot. She was sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton and never did get her, justice for that. I'm hoping that someday maybe she will. But anyway, I like to follow her on Twitter. She's a great person to follow, Juanita Broaddrick. And she said, Jussie Smollett lawsuit against City of Chicago tossed by federal judge. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that very, very encouraging because, that whole thing was a setup, and I think it is despicable, absolutely despicable what he did. Disgusting. Now, there are true hate crimes going on out there. Absolutely, there are, and I believe that. We see it in the news every now and then. But for somebody, who is African American himself, I do believe he is. Anyway, he looks like he is, in part, at least. And for someone like that to claim that this happened to them and it not be true really does an injustice to other people that want to report these things where it actually is true. So it hurts, just like women who claim rape falsely hurt all women. They hurt all women. Well, and they hurt men, and I'm not for that either. I think it's absolutely despicable when women do that. Now, if they truly were raped, I think that they should see justice. But those that falsely claim, and there are a lot of those women out there, unfortunately, they do a disservice for all women. And it's extremely unfair to men. I mean, unfair is not a strong enough word, but you know what I mean. And out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision, I see a big black cat up on my china cabinet. But I'm not going to react because maybe he'll just get down. All right, anyway, so yeah, it's been tossed out. Jussie Smollett lawsuit against City of Chicago, tossed by federal judge, U.S. District Court Judge Virginia Kendall. Thank you, Virginia Kendall. Ruled Wednesday that Jussie Smollett's claim of malicious prosecution by the City of Chicago cannot go forward. Good news. Good news for all of us that are seeking justice. All right, now let's go on. We've got some interesting stuff here tonight. Well, I'd like to think we have interesting stuff every night, but some nights are more interesting than others. Now, let's look at this. Not that I believe it, but let's look at it anyway. Elizabeth Warren's older brother dies of CV. Now, this is from today, so it's like the Krispy Kreme donut sign. It's hot and fresh. Come and get it. Boston, the oldest brother of Senator Elizabeth Warren, who we haven't seen in the news very much lately at all. So the oldest brother of Senator Elizabeth Warren, Donald Reed Herring, has died. Yeah, Reed Herring. Like, is this a red herring? Don't know. Has died from the CV, the Massachusetts senator said Thursday. The former Democratic presidential candidate said her brother died Tuesday evening. He spent his career in the military after joining the U.S. Air Force at the age of 19 and was charming and funny, a natural leader, Warren tweeted. I'm grateful to the nurses and frontline staff who took such good care of him, but it's hard to know that there was no family to hold his hand or say I love you one more time, and no funeral for those of us who loved him to hold each other close. I'll miss you dearly, my brother, she said. The Boston Globe reported that Reed, 86, died in Norman, Oklahoma about 3 weeks after testing positive for the virus. Herring flew B-47 and B-52 bombers for the Air Force and flew 288 combat missions in Vietnam, the newspaper reported. He served as a B-52 squadron pilot and a squadron aircraft commander before retiring in 1973 as lieutenant colonel. What made him extra special was his smile. quick and crooked. It always seemed to generate its own light, one that lit up everyone around him, Warren said. Now, I don't know, it could be true, but I think back to when Hillary Clinton's brother died. We never have found out what happened there, have we? Not at all. And I wonder why that is. I just think it's odd. Now, maybe Elizabeth Warren's brother did die of CV, and if so, I apologize profusely, and I would ask that those of us who are believers would pray that she be comforted in her loss, because, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities and rulers of wickedness in high places. That's who we wrestle against. And Elizabeth Warren, while I don't have an ounce of respect for her and her beliefs, nor do I feel that she is an honest woman or moral, nonetheless, she is human, and I do feel bad that she's experiencing this loss, if indeed she is experiencing this loss. It's very, very sad that we now have to question these things, really. I mean, would we have questioned this even 20 years ago if something came in the news? I wouldn't have questioned it. I would have thought, oh, that's terrible, that's too bad, no matter who it is. But now we're at the point where we have to question the reality of everything we see in writing, just about. And that in itself is very sad. Let's move on now. We've got interesting stuff to get to. Now, this is more Canada related, but it really is applicable to everyone who we're all, well, I hate to repeat what they're saying, but we are in this together. I mean, we're all facing the exact same things. Prohibition Gastro House shuts down after 13 years in Toronto, and owner says he's lost his house too. I only highlight this because this is what's happening in North America in general, and probably the world over, as places shut down because of the pandemic. And unfortunately, this was a very popular place. It was called Prohibition Gastro House in Toronto, kind of an icon, and it has now, it can't stay open. Prohibition Gastro House, an institution near the corner of Queen and Broadview, is out of business after 13 years in Toronto. We're finished, the restaurant owner, Michael Summerfield, tells blog TO, and TO stands for Toronto, of course. We're out of business. This comes 5 months after the Gastro Pub closed its sister restaurant near Yonge and Eglinton due to the street's notorious construction. That was millions of bucks for us, Summerfield says. Earlier this year, Summerfield and his team refocused their efforts on Queen East location, but then the pandemic struck. Most restaurants don't have 6 months of working capital, and that is true. I used to manage restaurants years and years ago, and they don't have a lot of money to work with. They rely on customers coming in every day to buy the food that they have and prepare. And so when that shuts down, well, the money all dries up, and I'm seeing more and more places in my little community, the stores are not just closed, they're empty. They're not coming back. So this has struck everyone very, very difficult. And I do think that it's time to carefully open it back up, because I think this is harming more people than it's saving at this point. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's how I personally feel. I could be wrong, but that is how I feel. So anyway, most restaurants don't have 6 months of working capital. He says, my burn rate at the Queen Street location unopened is 25 to 30,000 a month. That's how much he's losing. He's lost his house. He's lost his restaurant now. He's lost everything. And for what? Something that was totally not his fault. So I do feel very, very bad for restaurants and businesses. I'm seeing it all over. I went for a drive the other day, and it was at a time of day when everything would have been open and bustling, and just nothing. All sorts of stores that are just empty. You look in, and not only are they closed, all their merchandise and everything is gone. They're now up for rent, but who's going to rent them? Who's going to rent these stores? They can't do anything with them. at this point, and they were talking about opening up, some of the provinces here opening up in the third weekend in May, which we call the May 2-4 weekend. It's called that for reasons I won't get into, but anyway. All right, so yeah, they're talking May, but the Premier of Ontario, and just like the United States, Canada has left it up to the premiers which would be like your governors, and the Premier of Ontario says absolutely no chance that it's going to open up by May. It probably will be a lot longer than that. So anyway, this is not good for anybody involved. Now, I know here, most of the deaths here in Canada have been at nursing homes. And it kind of makes me question, because I think that, and I'm careful in saying this because I don't want to be accusatory, but it seems to me, because of the stupid decisions that have been made in nursing homes, that, I believe that they're targeted. Now, I know people say, yeah, but they're the most vulnerable, so of course they would get it. Well, no, not of course they should get it. The people at these homes should have been extremely careful, very, very careful. They weren't wearing masks, gowns, anything. And really, they should have been the most careful of anyone. And yet, most of our deaths have occurred in nursing homes. And I know that a disproportionate amount of deaths have occurred in U.S. nursing homes. So there you go. All right, let's get off that topic for now and go back, because we've got more. Now, this is really bizarre news, but my friend Donna sent this to me, who has definitely my sense of humor all the way. And she knew that I would find this humorous, and I did. So I thought, I'm going to share it with you. Can COVID-19 be spread through farts? Well, there's a burning question on everybody's mind. Well, we have a stinky new COVID-19 low. An Australian doctor suggests the CV can be spread through farts. During an Australian Broadcasting Corporation's podcast, Dr. Norman Swan warned that feces air set adrift. I'm sorry, it's so immature of me to laugh, but the feces air set adrift may be able to spread the virus. Feces air set adrift. Okay there. Well, I guess, if you're gonna set your feces air adrift, I guess you better be cautious where you do it. No bare bottom farting, Swan advised. No bare bottom farting. Yeah. Don't fart close to other people. That's just rude. Anyway, don't fart with your bottom bare. Well, I think that would kind of go along with don't fart close to other people, because if you are farting close to people with a bare bottom, you've got issues. Really. I mean, unless you're married, married couples do stuff like that. They fart on each other in bed, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, there's no conclusive study. Maybe they should do one. I'd like to take part in that study. Just for the fun of it, just to say I did, There's no conclusive study or published data that ASCAS is a COVID threat. I can't even read this with a straight face. There's no conclusive study to prove that ASCAS is a COVID threat. So you can relax, I guess, but could you imagine if it was killed by a fart? I mean, people always say, oh, your farts could bake bread or your farts kill people. But what if they actually could? I'm just saying, that would be a mass weapon of mass something. So anyway, health officials in New York State have cautioned against oral contact with feces during sex. Yeah, they really have to warn about that? Like, seriously? Okay. To each their own. All right. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew about that, to be cautious, not to fart with your bare bottom, and don't fart in close proximity to other people. And I don't know, maybe they should make masks for your anus. Maybe we're wearing our masks on the wrong end. Maybe that's the problem. Who knows? All right. Well, I had to be sure to cover that. All right, now let's look at this. This is a little bit more serious. Big company execs will now face up to 30 years in prison and $1 million fines for abusing CV relief program. Now, to me, that's good news, because it's not meant for the big companies that are raking in the dough. It is meant for small businesses and those that really will never be able to stay open without those loans. So I think that's good. New guidelines released by the Small Business Administration Thursday dictate that public companies with sufficient liquidity to support normal business operations throughout the pandemic will not be eligible for Paycheck Protection Program. Senior SBA officials pointed Daily Caller to a new addition to the program, stating that borrowers must certify in good faith that their PPP loan request is necessary while applying for a PPP loan. Borrowers must make this certification in good faith, taking into account their current business activity and their ability to access other sources of liquidity sufficient to support their ongoing operations in a manner that is not significantly detrimental to the business, the guidance reads. For example, it is unlikely that a public company with substantial market value and access to capital markets will be able to make the required certification in good faith, and such a company should be prepared to demonstrate to SBA upon request the basis for its certification. The PPP rule itself states that knowingly violating the application, there's that word knowingly again, violating the application guidelines can result in prison sentences up to 30 years and fines up to $1 million. It would appear that all requirements for receiving a loan, including having fewer than 500 employees on staff and dedicating 75% of the relief toward payroll concerns, have not been changed. So I think that is good move on behalf of the SBA, and because I know that there was a reporter that had asked Trump about that. They asked Trump about Harvard getting loan money, and he said, we will look into that. And he seemed very, very serious about that. Now, just a few days later, we've got these new stipulations. So I don't think Trump was overly pleased with finding that out, and may make these, well, possibly will make these places pay it back if it's found that they violated anything. So let's leave there and get into something else, because we can. I just want to check something real quick, and it seems like we are recording. Everything's fine. I just thought to myself, self, what if you weren't recording? So I had to check. All right. Now, I'm sorry. I need to stop doing Pelosi stories late at night, and I do apologize. So if you just ate, you might want to sit this out. I don't know, but you shouldn't. Well, it's 10:49 here, but it's different time zones where you all are, so it's possible you could have just eaten, and I don't want to ruin your, I don't want it to come back up. All right, Nancy Pelosi wipes her nose, touches podium. House members demonstrate the wrong way to wear masks. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi wiping her nose and touching the podium, the same podium that everybody else had to stand at. Very nice of her. Too much ice cream, I guess, causes mucus. It does. All right, and we're going to be getting into her ice cream in a little bit, because there's more to that story. I knew there was. I just had that feeling, and it didn't take much. You look into it a little bit, and it starts to open up. Now, there's a lot more work to be done on that, but yeah. House Speaker Pelosi wiped her nose, then touched the podium on the floor Thursday, and several other members demonstrated the wrong way to wear face masks. The members in attendance appeared to be following CV social distancing guidelines to a degree. Their seats were spaced out and many wore face coverings ranging from scarves to medical masks. But as they took their turns at the podium, things appeared to fall apart. Caleb Hull tweeted a series of photos from Thursday's session showing representatives on both sides of the aisle having difficulty wrestling with their face coverings. Dude, the mask does nothing if it isn't covering your mouth. What the heck is that? I just wanted to see it a little bit. All right then, just about the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't even know what to say about that, so let's go on because, oh, and here is, well, you know, Waters, Auntie Maxine here. There she is. Again, takes the mask down to speak. She's got gloves on though, that's good. And yeah, well, she's another one we don't want to. And here, I'm not sure who this is actually, but she's a doctor. Yep. Yep. Let's go down here. I thought there was more here. Let me see here. Let's get out of here. Close some of this stuff down and let's scroll down because, you know, yeah, I guess that's it for that. But, you know, nope, I was on the wrong one. I don't know. It gets late and I get like, whew. And there's another one. None of them seem to be wearing their masks properly. And Jerry Nadler really struggled to get his mask off. Pelosi appeared to wipe her nose with her finger and then touch the podium before she began to speak. Ew. Yeah. These are the people who spend trillions of our dollars. Think about that. Let's watch Pelosi here. I know.
Very important piece of legislation. So we come to the floor, very important piece of legislation. So we come to the floor with such heartache, with such sorrow about those who have lost their lives and their loved ones, those who are suffering from the virus assault now, and for those who are in doubt about their economic situation.
Yeah, like she cares. She's the one that held up the money for nothing. Congressional reporter Michael McCullough criticized the Republican Texas Representative Michael Burgess and Republican Ohio Rep Jim Jordan for ignoring the House doctor's recommendation that they all wear masks. The House doctor advised members to wear masks to prevent them from spreading infections to others, but Michael Burgess and Jim Jordan were among those ignoring that advice. Well, maybe they know something that we don't, or the rest of them don't. Hull pointed out that Burgess and Jordan were far from the only ones who had chosen to either disregard the recommendation entirely or wear their protective equipment in an ineffective manner. I watched the entire session. Every Democrat, with the exception of 2 to 3, took their mask off while speaking, handled it with their hands, and Pelosi even wiped her nose and touched the podium. Yeah, so anyway, that's it for that. And none of the House members contacted by the Daily Caller returned requests for comment. Well, naturally they wouldn't. So let's go back now and see what else. All right, are you ready for the ice cream? Well, let's look. Now, it was Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream that Pelosi had in her fridge. She probably had a couple $100 worth of it because it's $13 for every container. She had many containers of it. Now, this is the ice cream company Pelosi's freezer is filled with, and WTF is going on here. Now, if we look at this, and hopefully I can make this bigger, and maybe I can't. Let me see if I can. Come on. There we go. All right. Let's look at this. This is disbursements. It is a government document, and it's Biden for president. This is his campaign funds, And this is from 2019 to 2020. Presidential committees operating expenditures. So these are the operating expenditures. And look at this. Biden for president, Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream. Jenny Splendid, he is paying them, and $71 a time. And I think like a package with 5 flavors is $71. So I think that that's what that is. But why is all this going to his campaign? Why is he charging all this ice cream to his campaign? And look, 129, 123, 123, 117. Like he spent $150 on ice cream this day. 112, 111, 110, 110. I mean, he's doing it almost every day. So I don't know, but it's all through here. I guess he really loves Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream. Really, really loves it. Interesting. There's a lot of little strange anomalies about this ice cream vendor. Let's go back, because I know you want to know. I know you do. Now, let's look at this. When have we heard the name Les Wexner? Yes, that's right. He was the one that owned Victoria's Secret. He owned the Limited, and he was also the only, I guess, account. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein liked to say that he was a financial whatever, and yet the only person whose money he managed was Les Wexner, who actually gave him the place that he has in Manhattan, the largest private residence in Manhattan, and also, from what I understand, it gave him the private island as well. So lots of stuff there. But Wexner actually has it is the Wexner Center, and it is for like the arts. Let me see, what is the actual full? Okay, hang on here. Maybe I can find it in the mission to tell you a little bit more about what this is. We fuel creative expression, ignite cultural curiosity, offer unique experience across all art forms that enliven the local landscape while promoting global connections and understanding. This is the Wexner Center for the Arts. And Washington Post said they have one of the most dynamic contemporary programs in the country. So the Wexner Center for Arts was founded by none other than Les Wexner. Well, let's go back here. And okay, well, we've got the senior staff, we got the Center Foundation trustees, and then we have, let me see here, under the trustees, of course, he's the chair, Les Wexner, founder, chairman, CEO of L Brands Incorporated. And who else do we have here? Who else do we have here? Here we have the owner of the founder and the chief creative officer for Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream. So she is the founder and the owner of Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream, and she is on the board of Les Wexner's Center for, what is it? Center Foundation, Center for the Arts. Yeah. And it says the Wexner Center for the Arts is governed by the Wexner Center Foundation Board of Trustees, an independent, nonprofit, university affiliate foundation established for the purpose of advancing the interests of the Wexner Center for the Arts. The full board meets 3 times a year, with the executive committee meeting 3 to 4 times annually. Well, there you go. So she is on the board of directors. Well, I find that interesting. Obviously, they know each other well. So, all right, maybe it's just a coincidence. And this is interesting. Let's look at this. Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams give Dems their own flavor. The flavor, and yes, by the way, the owner is a diehard Democrat. The flavor was inspired by an American classic, White House Cherry, which her company has made before. Jenny Britton Bauer pulled no punches in showing her enthusiasm for Columbus pitch for the 2016 Democratic National Convention. We'll do anything it takes to get them here. And what she's talking about is Columbus was supposed to be where the Democratic National Convention was held. I don't know now where it was held, but that is what this article is talking about. It's from 2015, but in this article, Jenny Britton Bauer is trying everything within her power to get Columbus, Ohio, that to be the location for the Democratic National Convention. We'll do anything it takes to get them here, she said. That included a special flavor of Jenny's Splendid ice creams, White House Blueberry, made exclusively for and mailed out in last week or so to anyone with any leverage in selecting the site for the presidential nominating convention. Columbus is up against Philadelphia and New York. Britton Bauer said the flavor was inspired by an American classic, White House Cherry, which her company has made before. Cherries tend to be red, though, obviously a no-no for Democrats. White House Blueberry is made with elderberry liquor, white chocolate flecks, and, of course, blueberries. Well, it sounds delicious. She promises the flavor will be available in stores if Columbus lands the convention, and maybe even if it doesn't, we might, because it is so good. Cleveland was awarded the Republican National Convention, which Columbus also went after. Britton Bauer said Jenny's would have made ice cream for the GOP as well. Yeah, sure they would have. We said the same thing about the Republican National Convention, she said. It's very cool how the entire community came out to get either party here. Well, I don't know, but it's just weird. There's a lot out there, and I had to take my cat out of town late in the day, so I didn't get to look into it as fully as I would like to, but I'm betting there's some interesting things there, and some that I just happened to brush over that I think could lead to some very interesting things. All right, so let's get out of there and go back and see what else we can get into, because there's more. There's always more. All right. Okay, this by Charlie Kirk, who I happen to think highly of. House Democrats just voted to form a special investigative committee to scrutinize the president's response to this pandemic. This is disgusting. That's putting it mildly. 27 million Americans are out of a job, and all Democrats care about is investigating Trump again. I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous, and I don't know how they can put a stop to it, but they are wasting taxpayers' money. They don't care. All they care about is their agenda. We can see that by Nancy Pelosi holding up the funding when it was needed most for ridiculous things, because her agenda is more important than the people of America, obviously. And now they're doing it again. How long is this one going to last? How long are they going to, how much money are they going to waste in a time when they should be focused on their own regions and containing the spread in their own regions? Nancy Pelosi's region is one of the biggest cesspools in the country. And yet, they keep voting for her, or I guess maybe they keep cheating. Who knows? But it's worse than disgusting. Really, I don't know how these people can get up in the morning and look at themselves in the mirror. Honestly, I don't know how they live with themselves. All right, and this is extremely interesting, and I think when I saw this, I went, oh, okay, this makes total sense now. You know the ring, the logo, and it was in drop 3975. And actually, let me go there to drop 3975 and show you. All right, let's go to QMAP. And let me see, now I've already forgotten what it was. 3975. Remember that for me, 3975. 3975. 3975. Okay, how long, far back is that? 3975 is not back that far. Here we go. Remember this post, Clear Your Mind? And we clicked on here to go to this link, and this is where we end up. Now, I can't play it because I'll get a copyright strike, of course. But let's look at this. This is how it starts right here, okay? Let's look at that. And I remember looking at that and thinking, well, that is kind of a neat shape, and it looks like somebody has carved that out of wood. It's very interesting. But how many of us knew? I didn't. Maybe you did. But let's go back here. Where am I now? Let's get out of some of this stuff. Alrighty. And let's go back here. Now, guess what? Who has that logo? Yeah, that exact same logo. Sun Pharmaceutical Industries Limited. Okay, well, what is their claim to fame? Well, that ring that we saw is the logo of a large Indian pharma company called Sun Pharma that makes hydroxychloroquine and has actually donated lots of it. Perhaps this is why India, with 1 billion people, has so few SARS COVID-2 cases. So same ring in video in drop 3975, Clear Your Mind, Heal. Now, to me, this is very interesting that he said back here, let me go back here. He says, clear your mind, heal. And he gives that music, which probably it would be interesting to know what frequency it was recorded in, but also that this is the logo to Sun Pharmaceutical Industries, who has given lots and lots of their product away for free to help quell this pandemic. And I just think that's extremely interesting that he also put heal in that drop. Maybe you are not as impressed as I am, but I'm pretty impressed because that is it's like Q gets it in people's face without, I love it. I just love it. Anyway, Sun Pharmaceutical Industries Limited is an Indian multinational pharmaceutical company headquartered in Mumbai that manufactures and sells pharmaceutical formulations and active pharmaceutical ingredients primarily in India and the United States. So, and I do believe they donated a lot of this to the United States, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be, but I'm pretty sure they did. All right. So, are you ready to go on? Of course, you were born ready. All right, let's look at this. Okay, Osama bin Laden wanted to kill, hang on here.
I'm so proud to endorse Joe Biden.
Oh my gosh, please. Osama bin Laden wanted to kill Obama so totally unprepared Biden would be president, declassified docs show. They wanted to kill Obama because they knew that Joe Biden was a disaster, a walking disaster, and that he was totally unprepared, so they wanted him to be president. Interesting. All right, Osama bin Laden wanted to assassinate then President Barack Obama so that the totally unprepared Joe Biden would take over as president and plunge the United States into a total crisis, or into a crisis, according to documents seized from bin Laden's Pakistan compound when he was killed in May 2011. If he was killed in May 2011, I would like to add. The secretive documents, first reported in 2012 by the Washington Post, outlined a plan to take out Obama and top U.S. military commander David Petraeus as they traveled by plane. The reason for concentrating on them is that Obama is the head of infidelity, and killing him automatically will make Vice President Biden take over the presidency, bin Laden wrote to a top deputy. Biden is totally unprepared for that post, which will lead the U.S. into a crisis. As for Petraeus, he is the man of the hour, and killing him would alter the war's path in Afghanistan. Bin Laden specifically wanted fellow terrorist Ilyas Kashmiri to shoot down Obama. Please ask a brother, Elias, to send me steps he has taken into that work, bin Laden wrote to top lieutenant. Kashmiri wouldn't get far along in the plot, however. He was killed in 2011 in a U.S. drone strike shortly after bin Laden himself was shot to death by Navy SEALs. So this is all very interesting. Intelligence officials told the Post that bin Laden's plan never progressed past the aspirational stage. For his part, Biden had sent mixed signals on his role in bin Laden's death, as explained in length in a timeline by Washington Examiner's Jerry Dunleavy. In late April 2011, Obama gathered together a team that included Biden before making a final decision on whether to strike at bin Laden's suspected compound. In January 2012, Biden revealed he had been opposed to the raid and claimed that every single person in that room hedged their bet except for CIA Director Leon Panetta, who supported striking the compound. My suggestion is don't go, Biden said. He told his boss, as reported by the New York Times, we have to do 2 more things to see if he's there. But in 2015, Biden changed his mind and said he told Obama he should go. Yeah, right. Like he told Obama anything. Obama himself verified Biden's opposition to the plan, telling Mitt Romney in a 2012 presidential debate, even some in my own party, including my current vice president, had the same critique as you did. On CBS 60 Minutes in October 2015, Biden tried to clear up the confusion and insisted everything he had said had been accurate. In order to give the president the leeway he needed, I said, Mr. President, there's one more thing we can do. One more pass to see if it was bin Laden. I said, you should do that, and there'd still be time to have the raid, but that's what I would do, Biden said. SEAL Team 6 ultimately landed at bin Laden's compound. Okay, whatever. We know the rest of that. And all right, so that's interesting. Well, to me, may not be interesting to you. I find it interesting. Not that I believe the whole story of the bin Laden death at all, because who, disposes of the body at sea and doesn't even take a picture or anything? Like, come on, doesn't make sense. All right, now, I can't remember what this is, but it has to be good, man. Oh, yes. Congress, this is very interesting. Congress tells the FCC to reverse 5G ruling opposed by U.S. military, or it will. Pentagon and other agencies said plan could interfere with vital GPS signals. Now, this would be good if they did away with it entirely. Bipartisan leaders of 2 powerful congressional committees told the Federal Communications Commissions to reverse a ruling allowing a Virginia company to activate a 5G network that could disrupt military and other GPS signals. The leaders of the House and Senate Armed Services Committees wrote in an appeal Wednesday that they would force the issue through legislation if the FCC does not overturn its own decision to allow Legato Networks to implement a network on the L-band spectrum. Legato's plan to use the L-band would risk interfering with signals that are important to national security, wrote Senator Jim Inhofe and Jack Reed, along with Representatives Adam Smith and Mac Thornberry, who are the chairman and ranking members of the 2 committees. So we won't get into all of that, but the whole 5G thing, it has me wondering, and I know you have to kind of none of us really know what's going on with this virus at all, but it does seem that it's a lot less lethal here than it has been in other countries. And I have to ask why. is, anyway, we have been into that rabbit hole before, so we won't get into it again, but I think you know what I'm saying. Okay, now let's look at this, because this has me completely perplexed. So I really would like your input on this, and I do mean that sincerely. I really would like your input on this, because I do not understand it. I don't believe that Tom Hanks is just free and walking around willy-nilly, able to go and do, and is completely free. I just don't believe that. I don't. And I don't believe he ever had coronavirus, because people actually saw him being arrested when he was on a set, and people just generally are not arrested for having coronavirus. So anyway, this has shown up in the news today. Tom Hanks' blood will be used to develop CV vaccine. That strikes me as really, really odd, especially after David Spade said something like, Tom Hanks, something about, it all rests on him. What did he mean by that? Tom Hanks' blood will be used to develop CV vaccine. Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson blood is to be used in research to help develop a vaccine for CV, because they carry the antibodies. Now, am I the only person that doesn't believe this? Because I don't. I don't believe this, not even this much. I'm not even willing to say, oh, it could be true. I don't believe it. Now, what do you guys think? Because I respect other people's opinion. You don't have to agree with me. In fact, it's more interesting if you don't. So, what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible? What do you think is really going on with old Tom Hanks? And let's look at this. Yeah, now again, this is from Just Informed Talk, and they are saying this is from an unnamed source. So I do not have any way of verifying this, and I just want to say that up front. I am not saying that this is 100% true. I am just showing you what Just Informed has said, because if it is true, it's big news. And he is saying, from an unnamed source, indictments: Loretta Lynch, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, 3 counts of lying to Congress. Sally Yates, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 3 counts of obstruction of justice. Then he comes down here into the next one, and he says John Brennan, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 3 counts of obstruction of justice, 2 counts of lying to investigators, 1 count of conspiracy to commit treason, 3 counts of lying to Congress. James Clapper, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 2 counts of lying to Congress, 4 CIA operatives indicted, no charges listed for them. James Comey, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 4 counts of obstruction of justice, 6 counts of perjury, 4 counts of falsifying government documents. Andrew McCabe, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 2 counts of perjury, 3 counts of lying to Congress, 1 count of falsifying government documents. Bruce Orr, 3 counts of conspiracy, unknown, 1 count falsifying government documents. James Baker, charges not applicable. Peter Strzok, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 4 counts of perjury, 3 counts of falsifying government documents. Lisa Page, 3 counts of conspiracy to overthrow the government, 1 count of obstruction of justice, 3 counts of perjury. Rod Rosenstein, 5 various charges, unknown at this time. Susan Rice, illegal use of government systems, 3 counts of perjury, 1 count of obstruction of justice. This is unverified info. Please take it with a grain of salt. It seems to fit the info I've seen and heard from other sources. No timeline either. So, to me, that seems believable. Not that I do believe it, not completely, because it hasn't been verified. But it's interesting, and this definitely could be true. But again, I think we are all just waiting and thinking, is it ever going to happen? I think it will, but boy, it's taking a long time. Too long as far as I'm concerned, but I do understand. They know what they're doing. They've got a timeline to follow. They've had to clean things up incrementally because you can't prosecute them if the FBI and the DOJ are corrupt. So a lot of things had to be cleaned up before they could be prosecuted and so forth. So, all right, let's go back now because there's more. And let's look at this. Yes, another Pelosi story. Pelosi diverts, and this is from today. Yep, hot and fresh. Pelosi diverts 2.4 billion, yes, that's billion with a B, from Social Security to cover impeachment costs. Can you believe that? Freedom isn't free, the saying goes, and neither is the opposite of freedom, which for today's purpose is the impeachment of President Donald Trump, counting legal fees for a slew of legal teams, expert time, maintenance, and constant deliveries of Chardonnay. You and I, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, are looking at about $2.5 billion. Hope your boss can give you a raise. Speaker of the House Pelosi isn't too keen on having that number creep out into the public eye, so let's make sure it gets out there. So yesterday, as evidenced by the filing of reappropriation Form 77-A in the Congressional Budget Office, she quickly moved the amount from the Department of Social Security to cover the cost. Are you retired? Well, get ready to pay. Independent journalist Jay Garrick sped to Pelosi's office and got a brief statement. Well, most of Trump's voters and supporters are retired seniors. I think it's fitting that we ask them to help pay to fix the mistake they made. They'll have to do without cable for a year or two, okay? Now, excuse me, I have to meet up with my liquor boy. Now, I don't believe she said that. I really don't believe that. The price tag for this little dog and pony show seems awfully steep, especially with only a little more than half of Americans approving it. Let's hope that, at the very least, we get a t-shirt. Now, I don't believe she said that, quote, I don't, but I do believe that wouldn't surprise me that she diverted that from the Social Security. I don't know how she can legally, but all right, let's go back here and let's look at this. Yeah. And Robbie Starbuck said, you have to be a gigantic psychopath or criminally stupid to listen to this video of Trump talking about experimental use of ultraviolet light therapy and somehow think he's encouraging people to inject Clorox or Tide Pods. Gotta be nuts to make that leap. Now, that is what the talking heads are saying, that he is telling us to inject ourselves with bleach. That is the talking points that are coming out from the Democrats and the Democratic-owned mainstream media. But let's listen to what he really said so that we will know.
With a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do, either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful. Supposing we hit the body.
Now, what he's talking about, and it's so interesting because I saw this. I saw what people were claiming he said. And it's so strange because today I was looking up alternative remedies for what I have, and because I'm always into whatever is going to make me feel better. And so I found a company in Europe that's exactly what they're doing. You put your hand in this machine and it sends ultraviolet light in, and it apparently is extremely effective in knocking out all sorts of things in your body. Because if I just heard him say that, I'd be like, what is he talking about? Then what I would do personally is I'd go look it up and look into it. But it is a thing, and it is working and has been used for some time over in Europe. Now they are, I think, starting to, it's a machine of some sort. It's very small, and I can't even get, I tried to find out how much one costs, and I couldn't. So it seems like they're only sold through reps and stuff like that. So I don't know. And maybe they're only sold to hospitals or doctors' offices. I don't know. But it is a thing, and it does work. So he's not, and when he's talking about a disinfectant, he's not talking about, injecting bleach into your bloodstream. My gosh, anybody that would think that that's what he was saying is completely out of their mind. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that is what is being said, that he said. He did not say anything of the sort. And this experimental use of ultraviolet light therapy is a real thing that has been getting real results for a long time in Europe. So is it, I think we need to start looking at things like that, because they're far more effective than all these toxic drugs that we put into our system. So, and maybe it would be interesting when he was talking about a disinfectant, if he was talking about MMS. That would be very interesting. I have just started taking that myself. I'm not recommending it to anyone else because I'm not a doctor, but it does seem to be helping me. So, all right, let's go back now and let's, yeah, that's something that I don't think I want to get into this late. I think I'll wait for that. Yeah, this is interesting too, and we won't get into this too much, but former CIA director, and this is from today, so it's hot and fresh. Former CIA director John Brennan buried evidence that Putin wanted Hillary to win, not Trump, Hillary. And that would make sense to me. But anyway, a new report claims that Obama's former CIA director buried evidence that Russian President Vladimir Putin actually favored Hillary Clinton for president in 2016. According to the Daily Caller, former CIA officer and National Security Council Chief of Staff Fred Fleitz said Wednesday that former CIA Director John Brennan ignored intelligence that Russian President Vladimir Putin actually wanted Hillary Clinton to win the 2016 presidential election. Fleitz called Brennan the most publicized intelligence chief in American history in a Fox News op-ed that addressed a report released Tuesday from the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. That document supports the U.S. intelligence community's conclusion that Russia meddled in the 2016 presidential election to promote the victory of then-candidate Donald Trump. Fleitz notes that the Senate report directly contradicts the March 2018 findings of the House Intelligence Committee, which accused the intelligence community assessment of being tainted by anti-Trump forces. While recognizing that the political establishment and the anti-Trump journalists gloated about the new Senate Intelligence Committee report as bolstering their biases, Fleitz contends the committee did not follow proper procedures in their investigation and based their conclusions on too few intelligence sources and too much on the potentially tainted observations of the CIA. According to Fleitz, House Intel committee members told him that there was ample evidence to suggest that Russia interfered in the election, but not on behalf of Trump. And, of course, all of us who have been following Q know that already. Interesting. All right, let's go back now and see. And this is not good news as far as I'm concerned. Coronavirus concerns, and this is Quonset food processing plant has roughly 100 test positive for COVID-19. Now, this is from yesterday, so it's, still warm news, not piping hot. North Kingstown, Rhode Island, food processing facility on the Quonset Business Park has become a COVID-19 hotspot in Rhode Island, WPRI 12 has learned. Taylor Farms, New England, which makes salad and other fresh foods for grocery stores, has had about 100 cases of the disease associated with its North Kingstown plant, Rhode Island. Department of Health spokesman Joseph Wendelken said in an email. The Department of Health and Department of Business Regulation have been working with them for about 2 weeks, Wendelken said, insisting that no one diagnosed with COVID-19 or simply experiencing symptoms is going to work at the plant. The facility is now mandating the use of face masks for employees. Employee temperature checks are being done at the start of every shift, and enhanced symptom screening of employees is being done, he said. However, we are in daily contact with the facility, and we will take stricter action if there is another grouping of cases among people currently at work, he said. Now, I certainly would not want to be consuming any of the food that they're putting out. I'm just saying. And this seems to be happening a lot. It's happening a lot in meat processing plants. Seems to be a lot of pork processing, more so than other meats, but still. And let's go back because this is kind of related. Save your bacon. A real meat shortage looms with virus shutdowns. Now, I have warned you before that they have stated that meat shortages are coming, and we know this. So I think it would be great if you have a small freezer that you could go out and get what you need for several months and put it in the freezer if you are able to financially. Not everybody can do that financially, but it would be a good idea. Multiple economists who spoke with Politico said May could be when consumers have fewer options when buying meat. Americans could start to see shortages of pork, chicken, and beef on grocery shelves as soon as May, as major packing plants swept by the CV remain shuttered and the nation's massive stockpiles of frozen meat begin to dwindle. Any empty shelves to date have been a result of bumps in the supply chain, with stores being unable to restock as quickly as customers are buying. But bacon, pork chops, and ham could be the first to face actual shortages. The amount of frozen pork in storage nationwide, more than 621 million pounds, dropped 4% from March to April. The USDA reported this week slaughterhouse rates are down 25%, and 400,000 animals are backed up in slaughterhouses. I feel so sorry for those animals. And with meat plants of all kinds operating at 60% capacity, shortages loom for beef and poultry as well. That could also lead to higher prices and financial squeeze for farmers who are collecting less per animal slaughtered. So there you go. I'm not going to get into that more, but also here we have Florida crops hit hard by COVID-19. Let me see, as restaurants, schools, and food processors have closed, demand for fresh produce from Florida has cratered. So green beans prices fell from $16 to $18 a box to $6 to $8 a box in 1 week. Not so good for the farmers. Cucumbers, the entire crop could be plowed under. That's $38 million. Cabbage, demand has dropped by almost 100%. That's $24 million. Zucchini and squash prices have dropped from $28 per box to as low as $3 per box, $17 million for each crop. Peppers, about 20% of the crop is being plowed under, $10 million. Wow. Lettuce, about 70% of the crop is being plowed under, as much as $7 million. This scares me. It really does, because I'm hearing the same thing in California, that they're plowing under the crops. Not good. And I mean, I don't have to tell you that. So yeah, that is a good use of money right now, if you ask me, is to go and get some of these things. You can go and buy some fresh produce and cut it up and freeze it. I mean, I've done that. I do that all the time. I'll cut up a bunch of red peppers or whatever's on sale, and I'll cut it up and I'll just stick it in my freezer, and I've got it all chopped up, ready to throw in spaghetti or chili or whatever I'm making. So Yeah, and they freeze well. Peppers of all kinds, onions, all that stuff. I do that. I chop it all up. I go in, I know in a lot of grocery stores, there's a section of produce that might be, past its prime, and it's usually very cheap, and that's what I buy. And I cut it up and I stick it in my freezer in little baggies, and it's great. So yeah, I do that with just about everything. So that's a good way, because it's hard to get fresh produce right now because people are making less trips to the grocery store, and of course produce perishes very, very easily, very quickly. So all right, just a little bit, and I want to keep you guys informed of this stuff because really, I am so glad. I'm so glad that as soon as I heard about this, I went out and I stocked up, because now it seems like every time I go to the grocery store to get something, the price is up, and it's a little disconcerting, but I've got all the staples here. I just have to buy the odd thing to supplement. So anyway, yeah, we will let this go for now, but I may do some more stuff on the projected shortages, because I think it's important for us to know. I think there is going to be, I think the outcome of this in many countries, and I'm not saying that it's going to be that way in the States, but the outcome of this for many countries, many poor countries, many third world countries, is going to be starvation. It's not good, and I do believe, well, obviously this is a manufactured crisis, but it is a crisis. Just because it's manufactured doesn't mean it's not a crisis. All right, now I think I'm going to leave that for now, for tonight, and I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully, well, actually tomorrow I am going to have more time to investigate and research and stuff. So hopefully I can do 2 tomorrow. Not promising, depends on my voice and so forth, but I'm going to try anyway. That's my goal. So anyway, I need to get this over with and uploaded, or it's going to be tomorrow already, and you're going to wonder where it is. So that's it for tonight. You guys stay safe and stay well. I appreciate all of you. I really do. And I hope that all of you stay well. Ooh, my bra strap's showing. What a floozy I am. Anyway, yeah, I really, really pray that everyone stays safe and stays well during this, because I know we have listeners here that are older and, on Social Security or Social Security disability. And, I want you all to stay well. I've become attached to so many of you. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow in the next video, and you guys have a great night's sleep. Try not to think about Pelosi, because I know that when I don't think about her, I sleep much better. All right, guys, good night, and I will see you tomorrow.